Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Marble Arvidson was a boy with his own style in 2011. He had shoulder-length hair and he loved wearing his black fedora hat everywhere he went. In 2011, at age 17, Marble was living with a foster family in BRATTLEBORO, Vermont. This family was also considered friends and mentors for Marble, and he was happy living there. He had a girlfriend, and although he was technically classified by the system as special needs, he was very intelligent and high functioning. On August 27, 2011, Marble left his home, leaving a note behind for his family. He said that he would be back home in 20 minutes. Later that afternoon, he had plans to meet his girlfriend around 4 p.m., but Marble never showed. No one was quite sure where Marble was, and everyone began searching for him. He was not the type of kid to run away, and everyone was worried. But things were about to get worse, much worse, in Brattleboro, Vermont. On August 28th and 29th, Tropical Storm Irene hit the upper east coast of the U.S. with vengeance. The search for Marble would become impossible. Marble hasn't been seen or heard from since. Where is Marble Arvidson?
Year-old Marble Arvidson was last seen here. He left a note behind saying he'd be back, but 10 years later, he's never been seen or heard from again. At the time, Marble was placed in a family's first home with 2 other men and another male teenager through the custody of the Vermont Department of Children and Families. The goal was to help both teens learn to live on their own into adulthood. Arvidson's roommate told police he saw Marble leaving the home on Route 9 with someone around 2 p.m. on the 27th. And no one has seen or heard from him since.
He left a note saying that he was leaving and he'd be back shortly, but he was last seen leaving with one person they met at the back door, and up to this point we haven't been able to identify who that person was.
His housemates only knew that he had plans with his girlfriend later that evening.
For him to say he'd be back in 30 minutes and have a 4 o'clock date, not be there, and Marble would not do that.
A few days passed and Marble still hadn't been heard from. In the meantime, Tropical Storm Irene had wreaked havoc on the Brattleboro community.
Like the devastation that it did down here from the water was insane.
Which hindered the search effort for Marble.
There's part of him somewhere. He deserves better. He deserves to be welcomed home.
Marble's mother, Sigrid Arvidson, believes someone knows something about what happened to him and is looking for answers.
It's not about good, bad. It's not about right, wrong. It's about information leading to his whereabouts. Even if that is information leading to a starting point. There is a police tip line. You can speak with detectives. You can meet with them. And our family has a $10,000 reward for anonymous tips leading to finding him, which means anonymous.
Detectives say Marble is 6'2", around 165 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a black button-down shirt, black pants, black hiking boots, and a black fedora.
Hello, and welcome back to the Where Are They podcast. This episode came recommended to me a while back, and it's been one that I've been intrigued by for quite some time. I've continually checked for updates and news, but clues in this case have been few and far between. A couple quick announcements about the show. We can now receive voice messages from our listeners. I'm super excited to be able to include some of these in some future episodes. The link to leave us a voice message is in the show notes, and I'll be putting it up on social media as well. Please call, give us some feedback or case suggestions, thoughts on the cases, or anything you'd like to tell us. As I said, we may play some of these messages on some future show episodes. So let's get right into this case, the case of Marble Arvidson. Marble Ace Arvidson was born June 14th, 1994. His mother, Sigrid, said she thought the name Marble was whimsical and fun, a name that people would remember. She wanted his name to be strong and be unique. Marble would be diagnosed with some special needs, although it isn't exactly specified what that means. He was very bright, however, although he did have some struggles. By age 17, Marble was living in a home that was part of Vermont's Family First program. The Family First program was a program that was initiated in Vermont back in 1996 to help children and young adults with disabilities. Their main goal is to help acclimate to real-life situations in a family setting. For adults, the goal is to help them gain employment and teach them to take care of their own needs. In 2011, Marble was living in a home in Brattleboro with 2 adults and another teenager as part of this program. He was 17 years old, and he was preparing to enter his senior year at Brattleboro High School. He had also been talking a lot lately about going to college. He was considering attending the University of Vermont. Marble had lived with another family prior to the one that he was currently living with, and he stayed in contact with them regularly, actually visiting them several times a week sometimes. Everyone said that Marble was just a very likable kid. He was very kind, and everyone who knew him just loved him. Marble still kept in contact with his biological family as well, and he had a girlfriend. In August of 2011, he was living a well-adjusted, happy life, a normal life for a 17-year-old, with everyone who knew him saying that things were going really well for him. The disappearance. On August 27th, 2011, Marble woke up and got dressed in his normal attire of all black, right down to his black fedora hat. He mentioned to his family, the ones that he was living with, that he had plans to meet with his girlfriend later that day, around 4 o'clock. That afternoon, at around 1:15, someone came to the home, and Marble would leave with this person. He did leave a note behind stating that he would be back in 20 minutes. We don't know who this person was that he left with, as they haven't been identified by authorities, nor has this person ever come forward on their own, at least that we know about to this day. As the afternoon went on into evening and Marble still hadn't come home, nor had he shown up to meet with his girlfriend, his family started getting very worried. His mom was notified, and everyone who knew Marble began looking for him around Brattleboro. But there were no clues. No one could think of any possibilities or know where to even look. Everyone was just hoping that Marble had just gone off on his own for some unknown reason and hadn't been able to make it back home yet. Brattleboro sits right on the Vermont-New Hampshire border. It's about a 2-hour drive to the coast. It's one of those beautiful, quaint New England towns with a population of just over 12,000. The town also sits on the banks of the Connecticut River. But Brattleboro was about to be hit with a major storm that would impact the search efforts and increased everyone's anxiety and concern for Marble's whereabouts and his safety. Hurricane Irene. Hurricane Irene began forming in the Caribbean on August 21st, 2011. It was the 9th hurricane that year, but it was the first major one. There would be 49 deaths attributed to Hurricane Irene and over $13 billion in damages. Hurricane Irene would work her way up the entire East Coast, causing flooding and damage as she traveled north. On August 28th, just one day after Marble was last seen, Hurricane Irene hit the coast of Massachusetts and New Hampshire with a vengeance, and the impact of that storm was felt well inland, including the town of Brattleboro, Vermont. Roads were washed out, flooding was severe. Covered bridges, some that were even over 100 years old, were destroyed. Vermont noted 3 deaths due to Irene. The area was officially in a state of emergency. So naturally, this presented quite a problem with regards to Marble's disappearance for many reasons. For one, if he was out in the storm, he could be injured or lost. Finding him really became even more urgent. But secondly, searches for Marble had to be halted because of the storm. So while the urgency increased, it was impossible to get people out there to search for him. The conditions were impossible. Third, if something had indeed happened to Marble, the storm may have washed away any trace or any clues of where the boy was. Lastly, and understandably so, attention in the area went from Marble to rescuing people from the storm. People were stranded, people were injured and in need of help. It was all hands on deck for Vermont in the town of Brattleboro. The Brattleboro Reformer had reported on Marble's disappearance, but the day it was going to be in the paper, the roads were completely washed out and the paper couldn't be delivered. Marble's mother, Sigrid Arvidson, and her sister, Trish Kittredge, who was a command sergeant for the Massachusetts Army National Guard, would actually go out and hand deliver the newspaper to all the surrounding towns they could reach, just to get the word out about Marble. Marble's aunt also organized many searches for her nephew, bringing in volunteers just to help canvass the area. As soon as the storm cleared, however, authorities would ramp up the efforts again to find Marble. Take a listen to this clip from an updated press conference in September of 2011.
Good afternoon. I am Detective Paul Beebe with the Brattleboro Police Department. I'd like to thank all of you for coming today. We are here to update you on the case of the local missing teenager, Marble Ace Arvidson. Marble has been missing since the 27th of August, the day before Hurricane Irene hit Vermont. Saturday, wearing a black button-down long-sleeve shirt, black pants, black boots, and a black fedora-style hat. We are looking to speak with an unknown male individual who came to the residence on Saturday and visited with Marble. It is believed that this person may be the last person to see Marble at home. This person is not a suspect, but as we believe may have valuable information on where Marble may have gone. We urge the individual or anyone who has information about the individual to call the Brattleboro Police Department at 802-257-7950 or at the tips line 802-251-8188. We continue to follow up all active leads and are working closely with local, state, and federal agencies, the family members, and also the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. As of today, we have spent over 270 hours on this investigation, and the investigation is still ongoing. Searches of the area around where Marble was last seen and the areas where Marble was known to go are ongoing and will continue this weekend with ground searches with canine resources. Once again, we urge anyone with information on where Marble is to please contact the Brattleboro Police Department. Thank you.
Hi, as many of you may know, my name is Trish Kittredge, and I am Marble's aunt. We have established a Find Marble organization, and information about our efforts can be found at findmarble.org. I want to inform people that the reward has been increased today from $1,000 to $2,500 for any information leading the police or us to finding Marble. I also want to invite people to a candlelight vigil this Tuesday evening to allow people in the community, family and friends to come together in support of each other in support of the ongoing search of Marble. We ask people to be at the Brattleboro Commons at 6:30. We will provide candles and discussion from there. I also want to let you know that this weekend we're continuing our search for Marble. The Brattleboro Police continue to search for information and conduct interviews. Due to the size of the Brattleboro Police Department and the scale of multiple events in southern Vermont, they are accepting gladly additional resources to conduct the large-scale ground searches. That is why we are asking you for your help. And the New York State Forest Volunteer Search and Rescue Team will be on hand with us this weekend. I want to thank you for your assistance in helping us find Marble.
The Search and Brattleboro, Vermont. We talked a little bit about the effects of Hurricane Irene and how it affected the search for Marble and made things extremely challenging. But even aside from that, where does one even begin to look? Marble didn't have a cell phone or any electronics to track. No one could figure out who this unknown person was that came to the house that day, the day he was last seen. And why hasn't that person come forward on their own? The other teenager that had been living in the home at the same time as Marble said that they didn't know who this person was, but they figured by the way Marble spoke to them that it was either a friend of Marble's or someone that he knew pretty well. This teen would also tell authorities that Marble grabbed his hiking boots before he left. No one's really talked about that fact very much. Did Marble enjoy hiking? Were these maybe his only pair of shoes? Or maybe they were the closest pair to him and he just needed to grab a pair of shoes? Was it normal for him to wear these boots? Or was that unusual? Certainly don't think he was going hiking if he said he was going to be back in 20 minutes. Seems like a weird little tidbit of information. Maybe it's meaningless, but who knows? Marble's mother and aunt came out and formed these volunteer search parties to look for Marble, but it was so hard to know where to even begin. Marble had been living at this home on Marlborough Road, or Route 9, a main thoroughfare through the area, but still just a 2-lane road. It was on the far west side of Brattleboro, the opposite end of town from the Connecticut River, which was located on the far east side of the town. The area does back up to some mountains and rolling hills, and while, especially on this Marlborough Road or Route 9, there are homes and there are businesses scattered about, there are also patches of wooded areas in between. It doesn't look like this road has sidewalks either, but it's quite possibly nearby some hiking trails. But again, Marble said he'd be back in 20 minutes, that he had plans to meet his girlfriend at 4 o'clock. We also don't know for sure if Marble had walked away on foot or if he was ever seen getting into a vehicle. Marble's aunt and mother started a Facebook page and really drove the search for Marble in the area. Law enforcement seemed to be doing what they could, but with such little information, there wasn't even a trail to follow. As you heard in the press conference, they did spend many man-hours searching for Marble, even using search dogs and any technology that they could. They would also say that they did not believe Marble was a runaway. Volunteer search groups would meet in the mornings and search areas just off of Route 9. Some volunteer groups even went to Hogback Mountain, which is a popular hiking area about 10 miles from West Brattleboro. What might have happened to Marble Arvidson? First, did he possibly leave on his own? For what purpose? By all accounts, Marble was happy and well-adjusted in his life at the time. It doesn't make sense to those that know Marble that he would have just walked away. Some have wondered if maybe he was groomed and left to meet someone. Marble was said to be a little bit vulnerable and trusting of others. While he was a super smart kid, he was also a very trusting kid. His family said he would definitely go with someone that asked him to if he didn't feel there was any immediate threat. Marble was always the kind of kid that saw the best in everyone. He was also a pretty big teenager. He was 6'2" and he weighed around 165 pounds. He wasn't tiny or the kind of kid that presented themselves as weak, and he was very intelligent. But there are ways that predators do gain the trust of their victims. Did he encounter foul play? Since those close to Marble don't believe that he would leave on his own, this is a possibility that needs to be considered. During the search for Marble, some people came forward and said that they saw him fighting with some guys the day he disappeared. But I just want to note this hasn't been confirmed publicly by law enforcement, so this might be a rumor or possibly even mistaken identity. But if it's a true sighting, does it play a role in his disappearance? Is his disappearance a result of Hurricane Irene? I think there's no arguing the fact that Hurricane Irene played a role in Marble's case, especially the searches. But does it have anything at all to do with his actual disappearance? He did actually disappear a day before the heart of the storm hit Vermont. And since he was only supposed to be gone 20 minutes and missed his date with his girlfriend, it seems that the hurricane itself didn't cause Marble's disappearance. Unless he had gone off with some people or even by himself with the intent to come back in a day or two, but then couldn't. Where do you think Marble Ace Arvidson can be? What do you think happened in this case? Marble is described as a 17-year-old Caucasian male, standing about 6 foot 2 inches tall and weighing around 165 pounds in August of 2011. He had shoulder-length blonde hair, blue eyes, and liked to wear a black fedora-style hat everywhere he went. On that day, Marble was dressed in a black button-down shirt, black pants, black hiking boots, and of course his black hat. He was last seen leaving his home on Marlborough Road in Brattleboro, Vermont. Marble would today be 28 years old. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Marble Ace Arvidson, please contact the Brattleboro Police Department at 802-257-7950. Marble's mother and family continue to search for answers in Marble's whereabouts. The Facebook group Find Marble Arvidson was created in 2011 and it still exists, although it isn't very active. But I'd still like to encourage you to go follow and like that page and help it get more exposure. If anyone has any feedback or case suggestions for us, please hit us up on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or send me an email at canwefindthem@gmail.com. Also, a reminder that you can now leave us voice messages, and we will possibly feature some of those messages on future episodes. We'd love to share what you all think on certain cases and the cases that you're recommending. The link to leaving us a voice message will be in the show notes, and I'll post it over on social media as well. We'd also like to continue to find ways to help the families of these missing persons, and your support on Patreon will help us do just that. Membership starts at just $3 a month. You can find bonus episodes, merch coupon codes, and bonus content over there. As soon as we have a big enough group, enough people, we'd like to add some live stream discussions as well. Our episodes can be found on all major podcast platforms, YouTube, and online in written transcript form. We appreciate you following us, listening to these stories, helping us spread the word about these cases from whichever platform you choose. Thank you all so much for listening to Marble Arvidson's story today, a 17-year-old who has been missing in Vermont for 11 years. Please share his story, share his name. Someone might just know something. We will be back again soon with another Unsolved Missing Person episode, and until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.